Well, yesterday I was looking up young stroke survivors, um, and I liked what I saw when I had my stroke 12 years ago, 2002, um, which, by the way, I was 21 years old. There wasn't, there weren't any opportunities for support. I don't really think there was much of YouTube. I think there was, but I think I was I think I was too poor to have any of that kind of stuff. Of course, we didn't have Facebook. But first time yesterday. Uh, this is October 10th, 2014. Yesterday was the first time where I found somebody that had had a stroke at 21 years old. And boy, back then, it would have been really nice to see that. I didn't have that opportunity to, I didn't really have anybody to relate to. I didn't know anybody that had a stroke, younger than 70. In fact, my stroke, my grandmother had a stroke 5 months before I had mine. So I guess it's a long time coming, but it happened 12 years ago, and I finally get an opportunity to, you know, uh, share my testimony. Um, um, it's been a while, but yet it feels like yesterday. Somewhere in July 2002, I was coming home uh, with my mom and my brother, ironically, from my brother's final neurological doctor's appointment, when I experienced an excruciating headache on the right side of my head, right below my left eye, my right eye, just all this right here down into my jaw. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm 21 years old. I know, there's a lot of people that have, migraines. I figured, hey, this is my first migraine, you know. So, but it was getting pretty bad. And so we made it home. And I decided to take a nap for a couple hours. I got up, and my mother says that apparently I was mixing up some words. Um, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I was 2 years into my college experience. At the time, I was a theology major, And I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And so I wanted to go down to Honduras to be a student missionary to teach for an entire year to help me figure out what I wanted to do. But I had my stroke a month before that. So, anyway, let's see. This isn't too organized, but it's my opportunity to share finally. So basically what happened was, I was still, kind of struggling with my words. And then I decided to just go to bed and sleep it off. And typically that's the worst thing that you can do for a stroke. And, of course, I didn't know that I needed medical attention immediately. But when I woke up the next morning, my mom asked me how I was doing. And whatever I said to her didn't make sense. And so she took me to the ER. I remember her telling me, "Okay, get out of the car and go into the ER, and I'll park my car." And I didn't have enough. My language skills were just deteriorating, but moment by moment. And I walked into the ER, and they said, "Hey, how you doing? And what's your name? What's your emergency?" And I looked at him and smiled, looking like an idiot. And I was thinking, boy, they must think I was on drugs or... So I pulled out my ID. I was really embarrassed. And I stood there just kind of twiddling my thumbs until my mom came in. And then they brought me in and they did a CAT scan. They did a spinal tap. They took me to they transferred me to another hospital. And by that time I was thinking, wow, this is pretty serious stuff. I'm thinking, I've got like a serious brain tumor. I'm going to die within the next, couple weeks. And so, long story short, 7 hours later, I'm in the ER. And the doctor comes in with this terrible look on his face. And he says, "You've had a stroke." And it just blew me away. But such a strange feeling, I was relieved. Absolutely relieved. Because I thought I had something that was life-threatening. Granted, it was life-threatening, but at that time, I was happy I didn't have a brain tumor. So, pretty happy. And, just like Jill Bolte, the neuroscientist, I had just taken anatomy and physiology the quarter before and learned about strokes. And I was actually fascinated by what was happening to me in my brain. I wasn't aware, not yet, of what had happened. In fact, I asked the doctor. I said, "Hey, can I still go to Honduras to teach? To teach for the year?" And and he said, I think he said, "We'll see," or something. And then they admitted me into the hospital, and there was a neurologist. They had me do the testing. You know how they test your strength for your left side and your right side, and they do your feet, your left and your right, and it turned out that I had some numbness on my right side of my body, and I had kind of an Elvis smile, and and the doctor asked me to read something. I couldn't read it. He asked me to read the analog clock on the wall. I knew what time it was, but I couldn't say it. Let's see. And then he tried to explain to me, okay, what hand do you write with? And I managed to squeeze out that, I'm left-handed. And he said, well, this is a miracle because you have had a massive stroke. You had 100% blockage of one of your arteries, and and he said if you were right-handed, you could have been in a coma, blind, paralyzed, or even dead. And he was just amazed that I could walk. And I really didn't, I don't know, I was just in complete shock for probably about a month. And I spent that month just completely fascinated with my circumstances, struggling to communicate with my friends and family, sitting and having breakfast with my younger sister, and I remember eating a bowl of cereal and having having milk dribbling down my face, and we're both laughing, and just obviously trying to make light of the situation. But it was pretty serious. So when I went home to check, my email, I realized that I couldn't read. I'm like, oh great. Couldn't read. I couldn't write. My communication was terrible. I couldn't understand anybody. They couldn't understand me. I felt alone. But like I said, the first month, I was still fascinated about what was going on, and And then it took it took 2 weeks for the swelling in my brain to go down, and then things kind of cleared up a little bit. And I had some pretty significant aphasia. Prior to the stroke, I had just memorized a four-piece version of Canon D. In honor of a friend that had just passed away about a year before, and that was completely gone. The stroke just wiped that completely away. I still can't play it. I still can't learn it. I've tried and tried and tried. Let's see. So I had 7 months of speech therapy, 3 months of occupational therapy. And I remember 1 week after I had my stroke, there was a lady that came to talk to me. She was talking to me about Social Security. And because I was 21, I didn't know any better. And I said, I don't need Social Security. I'm too young. I don't need it. And I was being stubborn. And now I've been fighting to get supplemental supplemental security income the last 3 years. And that's another story. Well, it looks like this is going to be pretty extensive. You don't have to listen to this whole thing, but I hope that you'll listen to some parts of it. But moving on. So just months after I had the stroke, I started to get some of my ability to read. And I pushed really hard because I wanted to go back to school. I wanted to persevere. I wanted to be an inspiration for others. And I went through a certified nursing assistant program before I went to college. I got a C in that. But I wasn't able to hack the training. I got fired because I was too slow. Then a few months later, or let's see, the following summer, just nine months after the stroke, I came back to college and I worked at the college. I think I was, anyway, I was working with a hammer, and hard to explain, aphasia, things hard to explain. And it was horrible. It was horrible because I was doing a job where I was putting tags on every door on campus. This was just just the beginning of, setting up the electronic system for, sliding keys, for the doors. And, people would come in and they'd say, "Hey, what are you doing?" Because I was banging the doors, and I just struggled to explain what I was doing, and I was just dying inside, and just emotionally, and it just destroyed me. And I just remember these people that just did not understand, and I didn't want to use the excuse that I've had a stroke. I don't know how to explain it. I don't want to explain it, And so I became very, very, very bitter. For years, I was very bitter toward just about everyone. So, long story short, even though it was pretty much hell, in 2007, I finally finished with a bachelor's degree in social work. And I was gonna go, and after that I went straight into the master's degree program, because you can't really get a good job with a bachelor's degree anymore. I mean, master's degree in social work is pretty much the standard. So after about a quarter of that, I was really burned out, and so I came home, and I got a kind of a low-paying job, and as a vocational trainer, working with the developmentally delayed, and a big part of my job was driving my clients to and from work. And one day, I started having seizures, and apparently that was residual from the stroke. 5 or 6 years later from the stroke, I start having seizures. I'm driving down the road, and I nearly pass out on several different occasions. And so that was 2008. The recession had just hit America, and so, bad luck for me. And meanwhile, my student loans interest was piling up. I'm well over $100,000 in student debt. Then following that, I got the seizure thing under control. I was officially diagnosed with the seizure disorder in 2009, and I went back to school in 2010 to get my master's degree in social work. I was there for a year. I did pretty well, with the schoolwork, but I did horrible on the field work, which happens to be the most important thing. And after my third try in what they call the field practicum or internship, my university decided to push me out of the program. So, since 2011, I have tried to get SSI, supplemental or social. Anyway, you get the idea. SSI. And so I'm still taking massive amounts of seizure medication. Last week, I was in an inpatient EEG trying to figure out new medications that would work for me. The EEG actually turned out to be inconclusive. That means that I didn't really have any seizures at all, which was disappointing because that heavily depends on the determination whether or not I get the SSI. So I was in college for a good part of a decade, battling and clawing and struggling to get through all this garbage of trying to communicate with others, to try to learn, read, comprehend. Reading comprehension is still very hard. I got really bad short-term memory. I forget really stupid things like brushing my teeth or taking a shower or and what's interesting is just like a couple of the young ladies that shared their testimonies, they were saying that they look relatively normal, and that's pretty much me as well. And it's frustrating. I grew up in a very, very poor home. I am the only person that managed to go to a 4-year university. I'm not able to use that college degree, that university degree. And that's very disappointing. But I gotta tell you what, all this time, all of my short life, 33 years, God has always been by my side. There's been so many times where I doubted. Sometimes now I doubt. I sit and I wonder why. But if I look at the whole scheme of things, I have it really, really good. I only get $197 a month from the government. $194 in food stamps. But I'm living under a roof. I'm next door from a friend that lets me live in this house for the past 7 years. I live with a wonderful friend that takes me to doctor's appointments. But there's a lot of terrible guilt involved. And it makes it hard. When you're 21 years old, you think the sky is the limit. Nothing can stop you. But just like that, my world turned upside down. My self-esteem was way up here. Now it's way down here. But I gotta tell you what, you gotta live your life with the glass half full. You gotta wake up every single morning and you gotta say, thank you, Creator, or whatever you are. In my case, the Father God, for every single breath. Because it could go. It could go at any moment. Be happy for what you have. And I pray for every stroke survivor. I know everybody, every stroke survivor, like some of the others have said, they have unique issues, which makes us feel, more alone, more isolated from society. But God loves you, and you are so loved. You are so loved. So I'll close for now. I know this was a really long, extensive deal here, but it's my first installment. Because after 12 years, I finally get the opportunity to share. I have simple things, such as this webcam, so I can share, this laptop, so I can share, this roof over my head, electricity, a simple life, but nonetheless comfortable. So God bless you, and remember, God does love you. And I love you too, and I will pray for you. Good night.